Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace reporting live here at the Jazz Standard. Drummer Antonio Sanchez has played with a mountain of great jazz musicians over the last 20 years, from Danilo Perez, Pat Metheny, Chick Corea, Gary Burton, Paquito de Rivera, the list goes on and on. Well, tonight he is performing selections off his brand new CD, live in New York, live at the Jazz Standard. Live in New York at the Jazz Standard. Why did you decide to record here at the Jazz Standard?
Well, it's a venue that I've always liked a lot. Whereas it's just for listening to music or playing music, it sounds great. The audience is usually really nice. The staff is great. You know, it was like the logical thing for me to do. I mean, a lot of other clubs seem a little sterile to me, or some way too funky. You know, so I thought there was a really nice combination of like high class club with a casual vibe. That's why I like it.
I noticed that your ensemble is very, very different. You have a bassist, you have an alto saxophonist, and a tenor saxophonist, whereas normally we have a pianist or a guitarist or just one horn person. Why'd you do it like this?
I don't know. I think it hasn't been explored that much, and I think you can get a very distinct sound out of an ensemble like that. Also, without having a piano or a guitar, there's a lot more space, so it gives way for everybody kind of creating more atmospheric, sounds to kind of fill up that space, which normally you would have, somebody playing chords. But here sometimes the saxophones are comping behind the bass solo, or the three of them play together, or just the two saxophones. I mean, there's a lot of combinations, and I just love the space that you can create when there's no chordal instruments.
You're actually kind of going for an avant-garde-esque type of feel for it, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I just like to really improvise. I mean, I just write some tunes that are really open-ended, basically, and I tell them to do whatever the hell they want. And I like to get musicians that have played together a lot, which is the case with the three of them.
How did you get exposed to jazz, and how did you know that you wanted to switch to the drums?
Well, actually, I started with drums. I started when I was 5, and then I started studying piano when I was like 14, 15. So really the drums were always my main love. But then I wanted to learn how to play a chordal instrument so that I could write eventually, and that's why I started studying piano. And jazz came later. When I was studying classical piano in the conservatory, there was a jazz workshop there. It was ongoing. Now it's actually a degree, and I would like listen to the big band playing and small ensembles, and I would be practicing classical piano, but I would go downstairs and check what the guys were doing. And little by little, it started catching my ear, and I started to talking to some of those guys that were in the workshop, and they started recommending, check out Miles Davis and Chick Corea and Pat Metheny and all these names that I kind of heard before, but they were not in my radar really. And by checking out all these guys, little by little, I started realizing what an amazing music it is, and also I wanted to improve on the drums, and that was the logical step for me to kind of learn how to improvise and to develop a voice of my own.
Musically, throughout the years, Cuba, even parts of Brazil, or even Central America has different rhythmic patterns. What about your native Mexico? Is there anything that is uniquely different that you're bringing to the drums from Mexico?
Yeah, well, it's a hard question because Mexico's music hasn't been, the kind of music that you would be able to mesh with jazz, like for example Afro-Cuban jazz or Brazilian jazz. Some of the most popular music Mexico has is not really that easy to mold it or to combine it with jazz. But there is some kinds of music that are a lot less known. Like for example, everybody knows like mariachi music, but that kind of music is really not the best to mix with jazz. But there's some stuff like on the coast that is some really advanced, funky 3/4 time signature stuff. It's kind of like a waltz, but in a very different syncopated style. And I try to take some of that and whatever comes my way, really. I mean, one of the cool things about growing up in Mexico is that I listen to a lot of that stuff, but I listen to rock, pop, funk, Afro-Cuban music, Brazilian music. I mean, because of where it's situated, you have a lot of different kinds of music coming in. So I was exposed to all of that when I was growing up.
Now, three of the most important and most famous ensembles you've played with are the Pat Metheny Trio, the Pat Metheny Group, and also Chick Corea. What's the difference playing with Pat Metheny with the group and Pat Metheny with the trio with just you, him, and Christian McBride?
Well, I would say the Pat Metheny Group would be like driving a huge semi-truck. With I have a big load that I have to carry and take care of. So when I play, I really try to unify, and to support and to play in a very supportive way. And when I play with the trio, it feels more like a sports car that we can steer and speed up and do all kinds of crazy things without having to talk about it before. But the thing is, in the group, sometimes it's 6 or 7 people, and there's voices and there's all this arrangement. So it's more like a orchestral thing, and with the trio, it's more really like an improvisational thing. So those are the main differences.
What's it like working with Lyle Mays and Pat Metheny as thinkers of the music? Because their compositions are very, very complicated and very out there. What's it like working with Pat and Lyle?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, they're two of the most talented and brilliant guys I've ever worked with, and I will ever work with. I mean, they're so meticulous in everything they do. They have such a clear idea of what they want, how they want it, and why they want it, which is very cool as a sideman, because a lot of times people leave you guessing, and you're playing and you don't know if that's the right approach or not, and they have a very clear idea of what they want. So if you're not doing it, they'll tell you. But a lot of times the music is so well written that it kind of plays itself. Now that I know the syntax and the lingo of the Pat Metheny Group, because I've been playing with them for 9 years already, then it's really easy for me to know what the music is about. Because they have their own thing, their own style. So once you know the style and you know how to move and swim in that particular pool, then it's easy. And they're also so smart, just in general, just very smart people, and it's very refreshing and very nurturing to be with people like that on the road.
What about Chick Corea? Now, Chick Corea is a different beast. In fact, I really think that Lyle Mays is kind of a baby Chick Corea in some he is, because I think some of the stuff that he's done, I think Lyle kind of takes his stuff to the umpteenth power. But what's it like working with Chick, and what have you learned from Chick?
Well, Chick, I used to listen to his records when I was in Mexico a long time ago with Chick Corea Electric Band. And it was one of my dreams to play with him, also with Pat. But I got into Chick's music before I got into Pat's. So when once I saw him in a festival, he already knew my name, and we had talked a couple of times. But one day I just went up to him and I said, "Look, I don't want to die before I get to play with you. So anything you want to ever do, and you need somebody, man, please call me." And he did shortly after that, and it was so. It's always such a thrill to work with him. It's such a genius. He's so prolific and so effortless, everything he does. And also our particular playing styles, I think they blend really well. Because he loves that Latin tinge, in a lot of the tunes he writes or a lot of the stuff he plays. And since I come from that a little bit too. It's very cool how we interact musically.
And another one of your partnerships is with vibraphonist Gary Burton, whose musical palette and style is completely opposite of Pat and Chick. What has that brought to your drumming?
Well, I mean, every different situation is a challenge, obviously, and it's always a challenge to play with all of them. And with Gary, for me, I have to kind of think in a different way, because like for example, like when I play with my band, it's all out. Sometimes when I play with Pat too, is all out. I mean, we play super loud and it's this like epic things that we do. And with Gary, it's a lot more subdued, and it's a lot more condensed. So you have to be able to grab everything that you can do and kind of mold it into something a little more subdued and more compact. It's a little hard to explain, but I mean, he's like the genius of the vibes. So just listening to him while he's playing the solo is already a learning experience every time.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian, Pace Reporting live here at the Jazz Standard here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank Antonio Sanchez for his time, as well as the staff's hospitality here at the Jazz Standard. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column and my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Peace.